Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here with Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I thought I would chat with you guys and gals about why strength is never a weakness. But if you guys will please click like down below and drop me a comment under the video, I would appreciate it so much. Thank you. And I want to talk about this because so many people for different reasons are like, well, I don't care about strength. I don't train for any sort of strength. Even people who exercise and work out. And what I'm saying is this is the wrong mindset. Before anyone says, well, I'm not trying to be low conditioning or muscle bound, just stop. I can probably outrun most of the people who are going to say that. I actually run regularly. I do a 5K at least 3 days a week. So, and I'm 48 years old, guys. Like, I actually do run. I actually enjoy running. I'm actually fairly serious about running and other athletic stuff. I'm not just, a lifter. All right, so before people make that claim, again, I believe in well-rounded fitness. I believe we should all be well-rounded, which is kind of the point, with some of this. Strength is never a weakness. And I think people, they fail to understand this with their other goals. And I don't care whether your goals are to do some other sport. I don't care if your goal is to run faster, to run further, to jump higher, to have a better physique, to be healthy, to be fit, to stave off cancer. Whatever your reasons are for this different stuff, you have to understand strength transfers to all of it. Okay. And I'll jump over into all the others, the performance ones, but even the physique stuff. I'm sorry, but even most of the best bodybuilders, keep in mind, looking like a great bodybuilder is very much genetic, by the way, just an FYI. But historically, even most of the best bodybuilders for generations and generations were all insanely strong. Okay? They were all very strong at big barbell lifts. So you can't even make that claim. But also when you understand that muscle growth, when you are not upping the dose and continually adding more and more and more drugs all the time, mechanical tension and increased overload is really the only way to make a muscle grow. And I hope people understand this. It's the only consistent means that you have of muscle growth, guys. So just stop. Well, I don't care about strength. Well, you should. Are you going to add another steroid to your stack? Are you going to double the doses of one of your current ones? Well, no, I'm not even going to use any. Well, then you better care about strength. How are you going to gain muscle? Answer me this question. If you are not going to add more anabolic drugs to your current stack, whether it's 0 or you're on 6 different ones, how are you going to gain muscle if you don't get stronger? I'll tell you real quick, you're not. You're not going to gain crap. You're not going to gain muscle, at least not significant amounts. You're done. You better get stronger. You do know this, right? You either have to get stronger or you have to add more drugs. That's your only options past a certain threshold. So pick one. Man, you'll live a lot longer if you just get stronger and use less drugs. You probably do better. So for the people who are not understanding that, you need to understand that. All right, so what about all the other stuff? Well, get into other sports, it's very obvious. Again, people may not be aware of this because they don't follow the cutting edge of top sports and strength and conditioning. All your best athletes lift. Even your triathletes, your Tour de France people, your ultra marathoners lift weights. They actually, most of them back squat, right? Squats are actually fairly common in all these. Best sprinters in the world all are really strong at back squats. 500 to 600 pound back squats are not uncommon among elite sprinters. You need to understand being stronger will improve your work capacity on all of your running, whether it's sprinting. It's very, very obvious. There's a direct one-to-one correlation. Again, the ability to produce force, right? The ability to produce force, very, very self-explanatory. Hopefully everyone grasps this concept. If you're stronger, you produce more force, higher neural drive. You can sprint a little faster when you need to grab kind of that next gear. You need that fast start, okay? Distance running and things, it's a little less obvious other than think in terms of relative work capacity, okay? Every step is easier when you're stronger, okay? It's going to be helpful. It's going to be helpful. Also, the fact that you're going to get the bone density, the stronger you are, the better your bone density, the less fractures you're going to get, and overused fractures and running fractures you're going to get from your running. Again, strength builds bone density, which is really important to all these other quality of life topics. The stronger you are, the higher your bone density. Okay? And you can lift 500 pounds, your bone density is pretty dang good. Not saying that's where you have to get. Not saying that for these other endeavors. You don't have to be where I'm at, but you should get stronger. Okay? All your other sports, you understand there's a reason boxers tend to have a really good bench press. Mike Tyson could bench over 400 pounds back in the day. Force production, the ability to produce force. All your best MMA fighters, they all lift weights and they all lift heavy. The overwhelming majority. Force production. Football players, baseball players. Again, strength transfers to all these other endeavors. What about the quality of life? Well, the strength is going to carry over to the ability to move, right? Some of it's obvious. I'll get into all the cancer and stuff in a minute, but let's talk about quality of life as you age. Strength is never a weakness. The stronger you are, the more strength you're going to have when you're older. You're going to keep better bone density. Again, remember that point about the heavy lifting and bone density? Osteoporosis, fractured hips, that's deadly. You do understand that. That first hip fracture after age 40, or after age 60 is a death sentence. Okay? 19 out of 20 people are dead within 3 years when they fracture a hip after age 60. Let me state that again. 19 out of 20 people after their first hip fracture are dead within 3 years if they're age 60 or older. Why? Because you completely deteriorate from that point because you're sedentary now and old. You die. It kills you. Lifting heavy improves bone density. It improves support of all those things like your hips and everything else. It literally makes the bones harder and harder to break. This is not a controversial point. It is extremely well documented. I've had my bone density scanned, by the way, in a DEXA scan, and I was like 4 standard deviation above average. It's insanely high, but I'm a strength athlete. You would expect this. So osteoporosis, preventing breaks, preventing fractures, all this stuff for quality of life. Strength as you get older too, the ability to get up off the toilet, the ability to get up off the floor. Okay, if you are too weak to do things, being weak is a complete weakness in every way. Being strong will improve your quality of life. It's literally the difference between walking with a cane or a walker versus being able to walk around. Also, all that strength and bone density in the back from these heavy loaded lifts keeps your back healthy so that it doesn't shrink and you're not this slumped over old person. Okay? All right, about all the other health stuff? How about cancer, heart disease, diabetes? Strength training puts more muscle on you. Okay, sarcopenia contributes to all these. Lifting weights, strength training reduces cancer rates by 50%. We know the pathways by which it does it. Reduces type 2 diabetes by 70% with no other interventions. That's assuming no change in diet. Just the lifting alone, 70% reduction. Impact on cardiovascular disease, strength training in meta-analysis is a hair better than cardio for reducing overall cardiovascular risk factors. When you combine the two together, it's even better. So you start thinking of all of these quality of life things and these various life-ravaging diseases. Strength training creates a buffer against all of them. Also creates a buffer against obesity. You have better glycemic control. When you have muscle and lift weights, you dispose of carbohydrates, blood sugar more efficiently. Your insulin sensitivity is better. You have lower circulating insulin. Everything functions better due to the metabolically active muscle tissue. And when you're stronger, you have, again, more metabolically active tissue. This is beneficial across the board. I don't care what your goals are. Getting stronger will absolutely improve all of them. And when I say stronger, I mean just progressive overload, particularly doing bigger exercises, right? Doing bigger exercises. Strength training is, again, moderately heavy to very heavy weight relative to your strength. For you, 50 pounds might be super heavy. For me, it's going to be over 500. It's going to be super heavy. But again, back over to that point, relative to your strength. big movements that load the entire body. They build the support structures of the entire body, your bones, your tendons, everything. It's not just about muscle, but muscle is pretty dang important. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.